Hello. Hey everyone. How are you guys doing today? What's up, Lee Rams? Hey, how's it going? Hey Patrick. Glad you could join. What's up, QP? Thanks for coming. Hey Nikki. What's up, Foo Force? Foo Force. Hey Hope. Thanks for joining. What's up, Dee Dee? Hey Katie. Glad you could join. Oh no, QP Jr. has an ear infection. Aw. That's yeah, I had one of those back when I was young too. Um Yeah, I hope she's okay. Hope she's doing well. Yeah, I had an ear infection when I was young. When I was in probably middle school, probably middle school. Yeah, and you know what you do, right? You know how so you I didn't drink antibiotics, but what you do is they have this liquid that you pour into your ear. All right. Yeah, so I would lie down on my side, okay, with my ear up, and then I would put a few drops of this stuff inside my ear, and you lie down there for like 5 minutes, okay. So so that it goes there, and I don't know. I guess that it kills the bacteria inside that's infecting your ear. But it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling because I don't know if you've ever put water in your ear and let it stay there. It makes a little like blub, 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 blub sound. It's really weird. Yeah, and when you're done, you go like this, and you shake it out. You shake it out. Yeah, and what comes out is disgusting, disgusting liquid. But yeah, that's how you get rid of it. What's up, Cole? Lopez, Luca, Mia. Glad you guys could join. The liquid makes it hurt. I don't know if the liquid made it hurt. I mean, it hurt before you put the liquid in. Like it hurt. The infection hurts just by itself. I don't think the liquid hurt me. What's up, Leia? Little dude. Hello, Streety. All right, I have I have this for snack. Look, it's shredded squid. Ooh, I love these. Now, let's eat this before we do this. This one is supposed to be spicy, but I don't think so. It's usually not that spicy. Ugh. Ugh. Okay. Apparently, I don't know how to open package this. What the hell? I just ripped it open. Okay. Ugh. Ooh, look at that. Shredded squid. Good stuff. It's not that spicy. Just a little bit. It is not like shredded cheese, no. It's shredded squid. It's much better. Yeah. If you're ever at an Asian market, check one of these out. It's really good. Cuttlefish? I've never had cuttlefish before. Do those exist? Can you eat those? What do those taste like? I'm assuming they taste like squid. Have I heard of The Breaker? No, I haven't. What is it about? It's a wuxia set in modern times. Um, I don't watch a lot of those. I don't watch a lot of wuxia movies these days. I'm familiar with the old ones, like from the golden age, I guess, but not the newer ones. Oh yeah, quarantine. Oh, I'm getting my vaccine, my first dose of the vaccine tomorrow. Tomorrow, I have an appointment. So yay, yay. Hopefully I don't get an adverse effect afterwards. Like some people get like fever and stuff. Yeah. I think the first vaccine is supposed to be not that bad. Some people get it really bad on the second dose. So yeah, tomorrow I'm getting my first dose. Yay! Then a month afterwards, I get the second dose, and then I'm free. I can walk outside. I don't know if the shops will be open, if they'll still let us eat inside or something. I don't know if the coffee shops will let us stay inside, but it's still exciting. I am not Japanese. I am Vietnamese, actually. Oh yeah, I'm Scottish. Yeah, I'm Scottish. Can't you tell from my accent? Your dad just got it? Good job for your dad. My parents got it a long time ago. Well, not a long time ago. A couple months ago. So I'm happy for them. I'm glad they got it. They're pretty old, so. Okay. Okay. Let's talk about what happened last chapter. Okay, so the story so far, right? So we're about halfway through the story, and the story so far is, I feel like it's mostly been set up, right? It's mostly been set up for future events. Like if you think the events that have been happening are exciting, there are way that like shit goes down in the second half of the book, right? Like a lot of events go down, and I feel like a lot of the things that have already happened are just set up for the events that will happen in the future. I think so far we've mostly gotten Ling Hu Chong, our hero's origin story, I guess, right? It's what like we just found out about how he got his powers, right? It's a story about how Ling Hu Chong got his powers, and then the second half is like where the real, like, all the major events of the story happen. Okay, so a lot of stuff will start happening from now on, and yeah, and one of the things that are uh um like one of the important events is that last chapter, Sister Ding Jing died, right? So she's one of the leaders of the Hangshan school. Yeah, she dies. And it's important because I can't tell you, but it's important for the events that will happen in the future. I did live in California. I mean, I do live in California. Yeah, who said I didn't? You're getting your second dose Friday. All right, Cupie. Excellent. You can't get the vaccine since you're under 18. Well, that's fine. I think they're aren't they testing one of the vaccines for people under 18. Yeah, but I guess you're fine, right? It doesn't really affect people who are under 18. This is a wuxia story. Yes. Yeah, if you don't know, like we're in the middle of the story. There are a bunch of episodes before on the playlist. All right, so last week what happened? So Sister Ding Jing, right? She's one of the leaders of the Hangshan school. She fights seven She fights the 7 strangers that had kidnapped her disciples, right? Remember, they went to this town. It was empty. Okay, it was weird. Like no one was in town. It was very weird. And then her disciples were getting kidnapped one by one, right? And then she finds out that she finds these 7 strangers that were the ones who were kidnapping her disciples, and she fights them. Okay, she was fighting them, but it was 7 against 1, so she was gonna lose. Right, so she was prepared to die. But then some people from the Songshan school show up and they save her. Okay, and they join the fight, and then the 7 guys ran away. Right. Then afterwards, they sit her down. And we think that those 7 strangers are from the demon sect. Okay, so they sit her down, and they start talking, and they basically blackmail her. Okay, so they're like, we will sure we'll go and save your disciples. We'll go and help save your disciples if you decide to merge with our school. Okay, so they want the Hangshan school to merge with their Songshan school. Now, so a little like history on these schools. So the Hangshan school and the Songshan school, they're part of this 5 mountains sword alliance, right? So it's an alliance of 5 schools from 5 different mountains, and they're different sects, right? Each of the 5 are different sects. They're distinct, but they're in an alliance, right? So the thing they usually say is that these schools are 5 different branches, but the same root, right? So meaning like they're separate schools, but they're joined in an alliance, right? And right now, the leader of the 5 schools of the alliance is the head of the Songshan school. Okay, so he's the current leader. He's like the representative, I guess, of the alliance. He doesn't control everyone, but he's basically the head. All right. But so we find out in the last chapter that what his plan is. Okay, so Chief Zhu, he's the chief, right? He's Chief Zhuo, and Zhuo, this guy is by all accounts he's an egotistical, he's a power hungry dude. Okay, so and then we find out his plan in the last chapter was to make the alliance of the 5 schools into one sect. Okay, so to turn the 5 sects into one huge sect. Okay, and if he gets that to happen, then they become the strongest sect in the martial arts world. Okay, so right now the 2 strongest sects, the 2 most famous, most powerful, are the Shaolin school and the Wudang school. Okay, those 2 schools. But if he gets the alliance, the 5 sects of the alliance to join into one sect, they either become the most powerful, or they're in the running for becoming the most powerful sect. Okay, and then Chief Zhuo, eventually he'll if that happens, then he'll be the leader of this gigantic sect. So that's his plan. He's getting his minions to go around trying to get people to merge with his school. Okay, so he's trying to kick this plan off into action. And in the last chapter, yeah, so they try to pressure Sister Dingjing to merge her school with the Songshan school, and she's like, "Oh well, now and then they even offered to help her become the head of the Hangshan school." They're like, "Okay," so they're kind of pushing her, right? The thing is, Sister Dingjing, she's not a power hungry person, right? She's not, even though she's the eldest in the Hangshan school, she actually didn't want to be the head of the school. She actually let her younger sister become the head. So she's not this power hungry person. So she doesn't take the offer, right? And then she knows that the Songshan school, she knows that Chief Zhuo is not a good dude. She doesn't really trust him, right? So yeah, they say that there are 5 schools, there are 5 branches, same root. But they say that, but then what if you really look at their interactions? A lot of them don't really trust each other, right? if you look at their interaction, even though they're in an alliance, like most people don't trust Chief Zool. So there's not a lot of love to go around, right? So she doesn't want to join, and she's not the power hungry type. So she refuses, and then she leaves. She leaves to go find the 7 dudes, to go find the enemy. Okay. And then we cut to Ling Hu Chong, our hero, and we see what happened in the town, why it was empty. So apparently he was there in town, and some gang started coming in, and then they scare everyone off. So that's why no one was in town. That's why the town was empty. So Ling Hu Chong, he goes and he finds Sister Ding Jing, and she's fighting with the 7 dudes. Okay. And then he joins the fight. He fights them off, and they run away. But Sister Ding Jing is mortally wounded. Okay. She's hurt. And before she dies, she tells Ling Hu Chong to escort her disciples to this one temple. Yeah, and that's what happened last chapter. How's that? Sex? How do you say the word sex? It's sex, right? Or sects. Sects. It's too hard to say. Sects. All right, let's switch screen. So yeah, now Ling Hu Chong has escorted the disciples of the Hangshan school to this one temple. Are you ready? Ling Hu Chong turned around and walked back towards the main road. He then inquired from a passerby the direction to the Fortune Prestige Escort House. Remember, this was the house of Lin Pingzhi, right? Way back in the beginning. However, he actually didn't feel like going there at the moment, so he just wasted some time by wandering around aimlessly on the streets. He didn't know himself whether it's because he didn't dare to meet his master and master wife, or it's because he didn't dare to see his martial sister and martial brother Lin's present situation. They're getting married, right? And he doesn't like that because he's in love with his martial sister. But it might also be because he didn't know what to say to them when he met them. So he looked for some distractions to keep himself busy for the moment. Suddenly, he heard a familiar voice. "Little Lin, are you going to drink wine with me?" Ling Hu Chong felt great heat rising up in his chest and suddenly felt dizzy. He had traveled more than 1,000 li to come to Fujian just to hear this voice and to look at the owner of that voice's face. But right now, hearing that voice, he didn't dare to turn his head around to take a look. All of a sudden, he was frozen there like a statue, and tears started to blur his eyes. The way he called him, the way she called him, and the words she used to call him made him realize that his martial sister and martial brother Lin were very intimate with each other. He then heard Lin Pingzhi replied, I don't have the time. I'm still not familiar with the lessons that Master taught me." "Those 3 sword moves are really easy. After we drink wine, I'll tell you the know-how, all right?" Yue Lingshan persuaded. "Master and Master Wife ordered us not to walk around in the city for the next several days so we don't get into trouble. I think we should just go home," Lin Pingzhi reasoned. Yue Lingshan retorted back, then we also can't take a stroll on the main street? I haven't seen any people from Wulin. If a grand hero from Jianghu comes here, we wouldn't interfere with him, and he also wouldn't interfere with us. So what else is there to be afraid of? As they chatted, they gradually walked further. Ling Huchong slowly turned around and saw Yue Lingshan's slender body at the left and Lin Pingzhi's tall body at the right. The two of them were walking shoulder to shoulder along the street. Yue Lingshan was wearing a lake green gown and a jade green skirt. Lin Pingzhi was wearing a pale yellow gown. Both of their gowns were new and clean. As he looked at their backs, they looked very beautiful as a couple. Ling Huchong felt as if there was something stuck in his chest, and he could barely draw his breath. Still jealous, I see. Still jealous. He had been separated from Yue Lingshan for several months now, although he had not stopped thinking about her. When he saw her today, he knew that he still loved her deeply. His hand was gripping the sword handle tightly, itching to pull it out and cut his own throat. Suddenly, his vision became dark, and he felt as if the sky was spinning and the ground was shifting. He sat down on the ground heavily. After a while, he composed himself and slowly stood up. He was still feeling dazed. I shouldn't see these two ever again. What's the use being miserable when seeing them? Tonight, I'll go secretly to look for Master and Master Wife. I'll leave them a note to tell them that Ren Wuxing has re-entered the Jianghu and wanted to act against the Huashan school, and that his martial art is strangely high, so they'll have to be very careful. There's also no need to leave my name on the note. Then I'll go far to another region and won't enter the Central Plains ever again. Okay, so he's just planning to leave the school. Oh no, you guys, you know what I realized? I have my VPN on. No. Am I lagging? Like, is the stream okay? I can't turn it off now. It's too late. If I turn off, the stream turns off. So, damn it. I should put like a reminder or something. All right, so VPN is on. Hopefully, it doesn't cause too much trouble. I know, right? She's not worth it. She's not. He then returned to the inn and called for wine. After he got heavily drunk, he slept with his clothes on. When he woke up in the middle of the night, he jumped over the wall to get out and went towards the Fortune Prestige escort house. The escort house was big and spacious, so it was very easy to recognize, but he saw that all the lights inside the escort house had been extinguished, and there was no sound at all coming from there. He thought, I don't know where Master and Master Wife are. At this time, they must be asleep already. Just then, he saw a black shadow moving at the top of the wall to his left. That shadow was coming out of the house, and it looked to be a woman. This woman was going towards the southwest. She was using her qinggong, and it looked like it was his school's qinggong. Ling Huchong used his qi and quickly gave chase. When he saw indistinctly the shape of the body from the back, he knew it was Yue Lingshan. He pondered, where's little Marshall's sister going so late at night? Yes, I'm lagging. Stream is good. It's not bad. Oh, I forgot to play the song. Okay, wait. We usually start the chapter with this. Forgot. I think if I don't touch anything else, then it's not gonna lag. So. When Yue Lingshan reached the town's wall, she stopped for a second before continuing on her way. Ling Huchong felt that this was very weird. He followed her at around 40 to 50 feet, and he kept his steps light to keep her from hearing them. On Fuzhou's road, Yue Lingshan turned east and then west, not hesitating at all when she arrived at an intersection. It seemed that she was familiar with the path she was taking. After going for more than 2 li, she took a turn into a small alley. When she reached the side of a stone bridge, Ling Huchong flew up to the top of a house and saw Yue Lingshan reaching the end of the alley. She then jumped over the wall of the big house to go inside. The house had a black door with white walls. The walls were lined with rattan trees on the top. Inside the house, there were a few windows bright with lights from the inside. Yue Lingshan walked to a side window in the east and peeped through the window. Suddenly, she made a few sharp sounds. Zi, zi, zi. At first, Ling Huchang thought that this place was an enemy's house that she was peeping into. But when he suddenly heard her make those sharp sounds, he already guessed what she was doing. Even so, when he heard the voice of the person inside, he felt really disappointed. The person inside said, Marshal sister, are you trying to scare me to death? If I die, then I'll become a ghost and be just like you. Yue Lingshan giggled. Smelly Lin, dead Lin, are you saying I'm a ghost? Careful, I'll dig your heart out. Oh, wait. Oh, that's Ling Pingji inside. I did the wrong voice. You don't need to do it. I'll do it myself and give it to you, replied Lin Pingji. Oh, they're meeting in the middle of the night. How sweet. And how much does that suck for Ling Huchang? He's watching his love talk to another man at night. Yue Lingshan laughed. Okay, I'm going to tell mommy that you're talking to me in this kind of manner. Lin Pingji also laughed. If Master Wife asked when and where did I say these words to you, then how are you going to answer? I'll say today at noon, when we were practicing sword moves, you didn't have the heart to practice anymore and just spent the time saying those words to me. If Master Wife got angry, then she'll lock me up and I won't be able to see you for 3 months. Yue Lingshan replied, am I that desirable? If you don't see me, then you don't see me. Hey, open the window already. Lin Pingji pushed the window open while laughing at the same time. Yue Lingshan stepped back and went to the side of the window. Lin Pingji said to himself, I thought Marshal's sister has come just then, but there's no one outside, and slowly closed the window. Yue Lingshan quickly jumped through the window. Ling Huchang was crouching at the corner of the house and was able to hear them joking around. They were talking like there was no one in the world. Ling Huchang wished that he hadn't heard those words, but unfortunately for him, he heard every word very clearly. From the reflection on the window, it looked like the two of them were now hugging each other as their laughter gradually quieted down. Ling Huchang lightly sighed as he dropped his head and walked away when he suddenly heard Yue Lingshan say, It's so late. How come you still haven't slept yet? What were you doing? Lin Pingji answered, I was waiting for you. Yue Lingshan giggled. You're not afraid of losing your teeth for telling lies. How did you know I was going to come back? The mountain god calculated from my fluttering heart that my good martial sister would come back. Is this how they flirted back in the day? It's very subtle. So Lin Pingji, he's supposed to have like a girly voice. Yeah, because he's a very effeminate person, right? They say his face is really pretty. Yue Lingshan said, I understand from looking at this house in such a mess that you must be looking for that sword manual, am I right? Ling Huchang stopped and turned back around when he heard the words sword manual. Then he heard Lin Pingji say, I've been searching this house for the last several months. I've even turned over the roof tiles one by one. The only thing I haven't done is tear down the wall and look at the bricks. Marshal sister, there's really nothing in this old house. How about we really tear the walls down and take a look? This is your own Lin family's house. If you want to tear it down or not, it's up to you. Why do you need to ask me for? That's why I must ask you first. Why? If I don't ask you, then who do I ask? In the future, won't your surname become mine? Hearing this, Yue Lingshan laughed and scolded him. Smelly Lin, dead Lin, you think marrying me would be that easy, don't you? Then pa pa sounds were heard. It sounded like she used her hand to hit him. As the two people were laughing inside the house, Ling Huchong was heart-stricken outside. He really wanted to leave, but that evil resisting sword manual was a matter of great importance to him. When Lin Pictures' parents died, he was the only one there, and they left him a message to give to their son. It was because of this that he had now suffered a lot of blame. He had learned the Dugu 9 swords from the Grand Marshal Uncle Feng, but everyone from the Huashan school believed that he had deceived them and took that evil resisting sword manual for himself. Even Marshall's sister suspected him of deceiving them. To be fair, the cause of this matter wouldn't be blamed on other people. To be fair, the cause of this matter couldn't be blamed on other people. That day, when he practiced the sword with Master Wife, he easily stopped her unrivaled and unmatched the thrust of Ning. At that time, he had spent several months by himself on that cliff. Suddenly, his sword art had advanced by a lot, and it wasn't the same as their school's sword art. If he didn't learn from another school, then how would he have improved so much? And if this sword art wasn't the Lin family's evil resisting sword art, then what else could it be? Yeah, everyone still thinks that he stole that evil resisting sword manual from the Lin family. He had earlier promised Grand Marshal Uncle Feng not to reveal anything about him. Thus, he couldn't say anything to argue against other people when they accused him of theft and worse. As he thought tonight, Master must have expelled him because of this, although publicly it was said that he was expelled because he was colluding with people from the Devil's sect. But the other major reason must be because they believed that he had embezzled them of the evil resisting sword manual. Thinking that he had done this despicable conduct, Master wouldn't have tolerated him belonging to the Huashan school anymore. Right now, he had to endure the sour taste in his heart as he listened to these two people, Yue and Lin, joking around as they also talked about the sword manual. He had to endure it to wait for the truth to be revealed. Then he heard Yue Lingshan say, You've already been looking for several months now, but still haven't found it. Of course, that sword manual isn't here. Why do you still need to tear the wall down? Big brother said those words to you. Do you think they're real? Ling Huchong ached in his heart. She still calls me Big Brother. Oh. Lin Picture said, Big Brother did pass on Dad's final words. He said there's an object left by my ancestor in the old house at Xiangyang Lane, and I wasn't allowed to read it. I think Big Brother must have borrowed the sword manual and hasn't returned it yet. Ling Huchong coldly smiled and thought, You're saying this so politely and didn't say that I've embezzled you. You only said that I borrowed it and hasn't returned it yet. You don't have to be that restrained in scolding me. He then heard Lin Pingzhi continue, But the words old house at Xiangyang Lane can't be made up by Big Brother. My dad and mum must have told him these words. Big Brother and my family weren't acquainted. Also, he had never been to Fuzhou, so he wouldn't know that Fuzhou has several Xiangyang Lanes. Furthermore, he wouldn't know that my ancestors' old house is at Xiangyang Lane. Even people from Fuzhou might not know much about it. Yue Lingshan said, If we consider that what your dad and mum said was true, then what do we do? When Big Brother told me that my dad's last word, he also mentioned, don't read. That thing that I'm not allowed to read, is it a classic scripture or some accounting book? I've been thinking about it over and over,
and I'm sure it has something to do with the sword manual. Marshall sister, since Dad's last words mentioned the old house in Xiangyang Lane, even though the sword manual isn't here, we might still discover some kind of clue here, said Lin Pingzhi. That might be a possibility. These last few days, I saw that you've been feeling pretty down. At night, you came to this place instead of staying at the escort house and sleeping. I was worried for you, and that's why I came here to take a look. So during the day, when you're practicing sword and accompanying me, while at night you're here digging a nest, said Yue Lingshan jestingly. Jestingly? Lin Pingzhi weakly smiled and sighed. My dad and mum died miserably. When I find the sword manual, I'll be able to use it to deal with my enemies and console my dad and mum in heaven. I don't know where Big Brother is right now, but if only I can meet him, then it'll be good, because I can ask him to return the sword manual to you. He has been practicing for a long time already, so his sword art must be extremely high by now. He should return the sword manual back to its owner. I'd say, little Lin, why don't you give up this idea and stop searching inside this old house? If you don't have this sword manual, then finish learning my dad's divine art of Violet Twilight. Then you'll get your revenge. Of course, but my dad and mum were tormented and died miserably. If I can use the Lin family's sword art to take revenge, then it would be a real revenge, which would get rid of the insult done to my dad and mum. Also, our school's divine art of Violet Twilight isn't easily passed down to the disciples. I was the last one to enter the school, so even if Master and Master Wife want to give me a look, Marshall brothers and Marshall sisters would refuse to accept this. They would say, what would they say? They would say that you and I are not a real couple, that it's merely for me to have a look at the divine art of Violet Twilight and to get Master and Master Wife's favor, explained Lin Pingzhi. Yue Lingshan said, Peh! I don't care what they say. Let them say whatever they want. I only need to know that your heart is real, then everything's okay. Lin Pingzhi laughed. How do you know that I'm real? A pie sound was heard, but Ling Huchong didn't know whether she hit his shoulder or his back. Then she spat out, I know that your heart is false and insincere. You're heartless and cruel. Lin Pingzhi laughed. Okay. You've been here for a long time already. You should go back. I'll take you back to the escort house. If Master or Master Wife find out, then I'll be in really big trouble. You're getting rid of me, aren't you? I can go back by myself. I don't need you to take me back. She didn't sound pleased at all. Ling Huchong knew that she must be pouting her small mouth at this moment and looking angry. Her expression must be attractive right now. You're cute when you're mad, is what he's saying. Lin Pingzhi said, Master said that Devil's Sect's former chief, Ren Woxing, has reappeared in Jianghu. I also heard that he had arrived in Fujian, and that this person's martial art is immeasurably deep. He's also heartless and ruthless. When you're walking alone late at night and unfortunately meet him, then what would you do? Ling Huchong thought, so Master knew about this matter already. Must be because I've made such a big disturbance in Xiangsha mountain range. Everyone must be saying that Ren Woxing has reappeared. How can Master not hear about this news? I don't need to write that note anymore. Yue Lingshan said, So if you take me back and we unfortunately meet him, then you'll be able to kill or capture him? Lin Pingzhi answered, You're teasing me again. You already know that my martial arts isn't that high. Of course, I'm no match for him, but I only want to be together with you. But I only want to be together with you. If we were to die, then we should die together. Yue Lingshan softly said, Little Lin, I didn't mean that your martial arts isn't high enough. You're practicing so hard that in the future you'll surely be stronger than me. In fact, if you're more familiar with the sword art right now and we fight in a real battle, I probably wouldn't be your match. Lin Pingzhi laughed lightly and said, Only if you use your left hand, and then maybe we can have a competition. I'll help you look around. If you're already too familiar with this house, so you won't notice anything. I'll help you look around. You're already too familiar with this house, so you you won't notice anything strange, but maybe I'll be able to recognize something. Lin Pingzhi said, all right, go have a look and see if there's something strange here.
Yeah. Oh, not much love for Yue Lingshan in the chat. Yeah, even she suspects him. Everyone suspects him. This sucks. Everyone blames the dude. Ling Huchong needs to drop kick her. I don't know about that. After that, Ling Huchong heard the sound of drawers and tables being pulled. After some time, Yue Lingshan said, everything is so ordinary here. Is there any unusual place in this house? Lin Pingzhi thought for a while and said, unusual place? No. Where's the courtyard to practice martial art? We don't have a courtyard to practice martial art here. When my great-grandfather opened the escort house, he moved everything and lived there. Both my grandfather and my father also lived and practiced their martial arts in the escort house. Also, Dad said the word read. What's there to read in the courtyard? That's true. Let's go to your family's study room and have a look. We're an escort house. We have an accounting room, but no study room. The accounting room is also in the escort house. That thing is really hard to find. What's there to read in this house? I've been pondering over what Big Brother told me. He said Dad told me not to read what Great Granddad left me, but I think that this sentence might be the other way around. It might be that my dad was telling me to look for this thing left by my Great Granddad in this old house. But what's there to read in this house? I've been searching all over this place, but I've only found my Great Granddad's Buddhist scriptures. Yue Lingshan jumped up and clapped her hands. She said, Buddhist scriptures? That's very good. Ancestor Da Mo left sword manuals inside Buddhist scriptures, so it's not uncommon for this. When Ling Huchong heard what Yue Lingshan said, he got excited. He thought, if martial brother Lin can find that sword manual inside a Buddhist scripture, then it'll be good. He won't suspect me of embezzling him anymore. But he heard Lin Pingzhi say, I've already thought of this. I've read not only 1 or 2 scriptures, or even 8 or 10 scriptures. I'm afraid I've even read more than 100 scriptures. I've gone and bought Jingang scripture, Bahua scripture, Xin scripture, Langjie scripture, and compared them all with my great-granddad's Buddhist scriptures. But not one word is different. They're all normal scriptures. Yue Lingshan said, then there's no point in reading them. She thought deeply and suddenly said, have you looked in between the scriptures' bindings? Lin Pingzhi pondered. The binding? I haven't thought of that. Let's go take a look. They each took a candle and walked out of the room, hand in hand, going towards the back courtyard. While Ling Huchong followed them from the top of the house by looking at lights coming out of the windows. That's a bad sentence. While Ling Huchong followed them from the top of the house by looking at lights coming out of the windows, they finally arrived at a room facing the northwest. Ling Huchong followed them and then went down to the courtyard. He then peeped through a crack in the window. Inside the room was a Buddhist hall. A water painting of Da Mo's back was hung in the middle of the room. It was portraying the period of 9 years when Da Mo meditated facing a wall. At the east side of the hall was a very old kneeling mat and a meditation table. On the table were a wooden fish, a small wooden hammer, and a closed Buddhist scripture. Ling Huchong thought this was the place where Senior Lin established the Fortune Prestige Escort House. During those days, his name shook the world. And he must have killed quite a few people. In his later years, he must have come here to confess for his killings. He then imagined a grand hero of the Jianghu, with his long white hair flying around, sitting alone in this hall, immersed in reading Buddhist scriptures while striking the wooden fish. It's not actually a wooden fish. It's not a fish. It's those things where that Buddhist monks tap on that to make the sound like that.
sound while they're meditating and reading scriptures. So Lin Pingzhi's ancestor, right? Was it his granddad, or I think it was his granddad, right? Or someone. So yeah. So Lin Pingzhi's granddad was the one who created the Fortune Prestige Escort House, right? And he was the one who created the evil resisting sword art that everyone wants right now, right? So he was really powerful back in the day. Yue Lingshan picked a scripture up and said, "Let's take apart the scriptures and see if we can find this thing in the binding. If we can't find anything, then we'll just patch the scriptures up again. What do you think?" "All right," answered Lin Pingzhi. He picked a scripture up and started to pull apart the book bindings. He then spread the scripture pages around the floor to see if there's any writing on the part of the pages that were bound. While Yue Lingshan took apart another scripture and put up each page in front of the candle to see if there's anything behind it. Ling Huchong was looking at her back. Ling Huchong was looking at her back, but he was able to see the jade white wrist. She was still wearing that silver bracelet on her left hand. Sometimes he was able to see the side of her face as she gave a look to Lin Pingzhi and smiled at him before going back to take the scriptures apart. He didn't know whether it was because of the candle or because her cheeks had turned red, but the side of her face looked like a ripe peach. Ling Huchong was standing quietly outside the window, feeling sentimental, while the two of them tore apart scripture after scripture. Before long, 12 scriptures were torn apart and were now on the table. Suddenly, Ling Huchong heard a sound behind his back. He quickly pulled back from the window and turned his head around. He saw the shadows of two people coming from the south side of the house. They made a hand signal before jumping down to the courtyard and noiselessly landing on the ground. The two of them went to the window to look inside the Buddhist hall. After some time, he heard Yue Lingshan disappointingly say, "We've already taken apart all the scriptures. There's nothing here." She was suddenly excited and continued, "Little Lin, I think we should bring over a basin of water." Lin Pingzhi asked, "For what?" Yue Lingshan answered, "When I was small, I heard Daddy told me a story about manuscripts immersed in acid. Then they would write on it, and when it's dried, the letters would disappear. But when the pages were wetted, the letters would reappear." Ling Huchong's heart turned sour as he remembered the time his master told this story. Yue Lingshan was only 8 or 9 years old, and he was only around 17 or 18 years old. Remembering those past days, the memories bubbled over in his heart. He remembered that day when he went with her to catch crickets. He took the biggest and strongest cricket and gave it to her, but her cricket still lost to his in a fight, so she wept incessantly while he tried to comfort her for a long time. Oh, she was always a brat then. Finally, he was able to comfort her before the two of them went to the master to ask him for a story. Remembering these events, tears started to bubble up in his eyes. Then he heard Lin Pingzhi say, "Right, no harm in trying." As he turned around to go, Yue Lingshan said, "I'll go with you." The two of them went out hand in hand. Those two people hiding beneath the windows were holding their breath and remaining still. After some time, Lin Pingzhi and Yue Lingshan came back to the Buddhist hall with a basin of water. Then they soaked 7 or 8 pages of the scriptures in the basin. Lin Pingzhi couldn't wait anymore and took out a page out of the water and held it up against the candles as light. But there was no new letter appearing on the page. The two of them had tried more than 20 pages, but there was still no clue at all. Lin Pingzhi said, "We don't need to test anymore. There's no letters on these pages." After Lin Pingzhi said these words, those two people hiding beneath the window quietly moved to the door and pushed it open. Lin Pingzhi asked, "Who's there?" The two people rushed in, moving like the wind. Lin Pingzhi lifted his hand ready to fight as one person attacked the side of his body. Yue Lingshan already pulled half her sword out when the enemy's 2 fingers were thrust towards her eyes. She quickly let go of her sword handle and swept her hand up to block the attack. Without missing a beat, that person changed the direction of his attack and was now stabbing towards her throat. Yue Lingshan was astonished and retreated 2 steps when she hit the side of the meditation table and couldn't go back. That person immediately lifted his left hand and chopped down on her head. Yue Lingshan raised her 2 palms to block the attack, but unexpectedly, this attack was a fake, and as that person stabbed an acupoint on Yue Lingshan's waist with his right hand. She leaned on the table, unable to move. Ling Huchong saw everything that went on in that room, and at the moment wasn't worried about their lives. He was thinking that there was no hurry to save them. Furthermore, he wasn't sure of the background of these enemies. Also, the enemies were looking around the hall right now. One took the kneeling mat and tore it in 2, while the other one smashed the wooden fish into 7 or 8 pieces. Lin Pingzhi and Yue Lingshan were unable to talk or move when they saw these two people tearing the kneeling mat and smashing the wooden fish. It was obvious that they were looking for the evil resisting sword manual. They both thought the same thing. How come we didn't think that the sword manual might be in the kneeling mat or the wooden fish? But there was nothing inside the mat or the fish, and they both felt happy. The 2 intruders were around 50 years old. One was bald, and the other one was full of white hair. Those 2 people moved really fast, and before long, all the objects on the table were broken to pieces already. Then they turned their attention to the portrait of Da Mo. That bald old man extended his hand to grab the portrait, but the white-haired old man extended his hand to block it and shouted, "Wait! Look at where his finger is pointing to!" Ling Huchong, Lin Pingzhi, and Yue Lingshan immediately looked at the painting. They saw Da Mo's left hand was behind his back, holding a sword manual, and his right hand was pointing towards the roof. All right. I think it's time for a 5-minute break, all right? There's something weird with that painting. Something weird, I say. All right, 5-minute break. I'll be right back. All right, Losh. You're saying what? What about this song, huh? You're saying I'm the same generation as your parents? All right, all right. I guess you must be like 12 years old then. That's a very old song. Yes, yes, it is. That version was sung by Andy Lau, actually. Yeah, he's a good singer. Okay, where were we? All right, so they found they saw the painting, and his right hand was pointing towards the roof. Okay, so that might be a clue as to where the manual is hiding. The bald old man asked, "What's so strange about his fingers?" The white-haired old man answered, "I don't know. Let's have a look first." He jumped straight up and aimed his 2 palms at the roof where the portrait of Da Mo was pointing. With a crash, dust and bits of roof tiles started to rain down. The bald old man asked, "What's there?" He only said these 2 words when a red Buddhist robe floated down from the hole in the roof. The white-haired old man extended his hand and grabbed the robe. He then took a look at it under the candles' light. He said, It's here!" He was overjoyed and his voice was trembling. The bald old man asked, "What?" The white-haired old man said, "Look at it yourself." Ling Huchong squinted his eyes and saw that there were many small words written on the Buddhist robe. The bald old man said, "Could this be the evil resisting sword manual?" The white-haired old man said, "Most likely this is the sword manual. We 2 brothers have done this great service tonight. Brother, put it away." The bald old man was so happy that his mouth was open as he folded the robe and put it in his bosom. He pointed at Lin Pingzhi and Yue Lingshan with his left hand and asked, "Shall we kill them?" Ling Huchong gripped his sword handle, waiting for the white-haired old man to reveal his murderous intention before rushing in there and killing these two. Who would have thought that the white-haired old man would say, We already have the sword manual. Let's not pick a fight with the Huashan school. Let them go. The two people then walked out of the Buddhist hall and jumped out over the wall. Ling Huchong immediately jumped over the wall to follow them and saw that those two old men were extremely quick with their footsteps. Ling Huchong was afraid to lose those two in the dark, so he quickened his steps but still kept a distance of 20 feet between them. The two old men went even faster, but Ling Huchong kept up with them. Suddenly, they stopped and turned around. Ling Huchong saw a sudden flash of light and felt his right shoulder and right arm hurting. Unexpectedly, his shoulder and arm had already been slashed by their sabers. These two men suddenly stopped. These two men suddenly stopping, suddenly turning around, and suddenly slashing their sabers out were like that of thunder, suddenly striking down. A lot of suddenlies there. Oh, hey! A big event just happened. I think we just found the manual. And who the hell are these two guys? Jeez. So remember, Ling Huchong is really powerful right now. So them able to, like, these two men, like, able to get the drop on him is means they're really good fighters. Although Ling Huchong's internal energy was deep and his sword art was brilliant, he was still inferior to first-class fighters by a big level when faced with sudden changes in the battlefield or encountering strange and unusual skills. The enemy's attacks were so fast that it didn't even need mentioning that he didn't manage to use his sword to fight back. He didn't even have time to reach his sword handle before he got heavily injured. The saber arts of those two men were very fast as they quickly followed with a second slash. Ling Huchong was startled and hastily jumped back. Fortunately, his internal energy was deep, which allowed him to jump back for 20 feet in one leap. He then jumped back again for another 20 feet. These two old men saw that he had been heavily injured, but he was still able to jump really far and fast. They were alarmed, but they still rushed forward. Ling Huchong quickly turned around and ran away. Initially, his injured shoulder and arm didn't hurt that much, but now the pain was so severe that he felt like fainting. He thought, These two people have stolen the Buddhist robe with the evil resisting sword manual written on it. I need it to right this injustice I'm being blamed for. I must take it back and return it to Martial Brother Lin. He endured the pain on his arm and shoulder as he extended his hand to grip his sword handle. As he pulled the long sword out, it stopped halfway. Unexpectedly, his injured right hand was unable to pull the sword out any further. His right hand had no more energy. He then heard the sound of the wind at the back of his head as the enemy's sabers were chopping down on his head. Ling Huchong gathered his chi and quickly leapt forward, while his left hand forcibly pulled on his belt, tearing it. He then gripped his sword with his left hand and shook it free from the scabbard. When he felt the cold air rushing towards him again, he turned around and saw the two sabers chopping down. He leapt back another step. The sky would get brighter soon, but at the moment it was the darkest time just before the dawn. Besides the flashes of sabers, he could see nothing else. When he learned the Dugu 9 swords, he needed to look at the weakness of the enemy's moves and attack that point. But right now, he wasn't able to see the enemy's movements, so he couldn't use his sword art at all. Just then, he felt his left arm also hurt as an enemy's saber scratched it. He rushed towards a long street with his left hand, gripping the sword and pressing down on the injury on his right shoulder to stem the blood from flowing down to the ground. As the two people chased him, he saw that his steps were really quick. They saw that his steps were so quick that they wouldn't be able to chase him down. Thinking that it was good already that they had grabbed the sword manual, they didn't want to linger anymore, so they stopped chasing. They turned around and went away. Ling Huchong shouted, "Hey, bold thieves, you want to run away after stealing?" and turned around to chase. This angered the two people. They also turned around and wielded their sabers to chop at him. Ling Huchong didn't want to cross swords with them, so he quickly turned around and ran away again. He secretly prayed, Someone, please, pass by carrying a lamp. After running for several steps, he thought of an idea. He quickly jumped onto a roof and looked around. He spotted a house at his left, with a light from the window lighting up the area around it. He quickly went to that lighted area. But those two old men had again stopped chasing. Ling Huchong stooped down, grabbed two roof tiles, and threw it towards them. He shouted, "You've robbed the Lin family's evil resisting sword manual. One bald, one white-haired. You want to escape to the end of the world, but Wu Lin's heroes will capture both of you and cut your corpses into pieces." Those two roof tiles broke as they hit the slab stones on the street. When the two old men heard him mention the evil resisting sword manual, they quickly jumped onto the roof to give chase. Ling Huchong felt his legs becoming weaker and losing his strength. Fiercely, he drew a breath and ran to the lighted area at top speed. Suddenly, he staggered and fell on the ground below. However, he quickly somersaulted using the carp's leap move and landed on his feet. Then he leaned back against the wall. The two old men lightly jumped down and approached him separately from his left and his right. The bald old man smiled fiercely and said, "I've given you one life, but you didn't want to go." Ling Huchong saw his bald head was shining like a crystal. His heart shivered. So it's dawn already. He laughed. "Which house or school are you from? Why do you want to kill me?" The white-haired old man lifted his saber and slashed it down to split his head in two. Ling Huchong threw his sword into his right hand and lightly pierced his throat. That bald old man was startled and quickly brandished his saber as he rushed forward. Ling Huchong slashed his sword towards the hand carrying the saber and cut his wrist off. Well, that was quick. He then pointed at the sword at his throat and said, "Tell me who you really are, and I'll let you live." The bald old man laughed. Looking mournful, he said, "We brothers have rarely met a match when running amok in Jianghu. Today, I'll die under your honor's sword. Really admirable. But I don't know your name. I'll die with regrets." Ling Huchong saw that although he had lost a hand, he was still unafraid. He respected him deeply for this, so he said, "I was forced to defend myself. Actually, I'm not acquainted with you two at all. Handless man, I'm sorry. First, sir, please give me the Buddhist robe. Then we don't have to keep going." That bald old man said, "How can bald eagle surrender?" And with a flash of his left hand, he pierced his own heart with a dagger. Ling Huchong thought, this person would rather die than surrender. What a unique character. He then stooped down to take out that Buddhist robe, but he felt dizzy, and he knew that he had lost a lot of blood. He ripped his gown and carelessly struggled to tie his injured shoulder and arm with the cloth. Only then did he take out the Buddhist robe from the bosom of that bald old man. He then felt dizzy again and immediately took a few deep breaths. The sky was brighter now, and he was able to recognize the road. He then walked back towards Lin Pingzhi's old house on Xiangyang Lane. After walking a couple 100 feet... Wait, what about the other guy? There were two old men, right? Wait, the bald guy, there were two men. One guy died. What happened to the other guy? That was weird. Did he run away? That was weird. Oh, he already stabbed him in the throat? Oh, I must have missed that. I read it and I must have missed it. That's funny. All right. After walking for a couple 100 feet, he felt he couldn't support himself anymore. He thought, if I fall down now, I won't be able to protect my name. But after I am dead, everyone will think that I did steal. Oh shit. that I did steal the evil resisting sword manual. With that thing on my body, if I die now, my name will be like dirt. So he gathered his energy to continue walking, and finally arrived at Xiangyang Lane. But the Lin family house's main door was closed. Lin Pingzhi and Yue Lingshan had been knocked out by those two people, so there was no one left to open the door. He wanted to jump over the wall, but he had no more energy left. He knocked on the door a few times before kicking it. But his kick wasn't able to open it. Strained to the utmost at this point, he staggered and passed out. When he woke up, he felt that he was lying on a bed. He opened his eyes and saw the Yue Bu-chun couple in front of the bed. Ooh! Now he's back with the school. Or at least back, not in the school, but now he's back, now he's back within, what am I trying to say? He's back in the midst of the school. Ling Huchang was overjoyed and called out, Master wife, I... He was really excited and tears started to drop. Oh, he struggled to sit up. Yue Bu-chun didn't answer but asked, What matter do you have here? Ling Huchang said, Little Martial's sister, is she okay? Madame Yue answered, She's fine. Now, how come you're in Fuzhou? Her voice was full of concern, and her eyes were red already. You want bells for the both of them? The two old men? They were just thieves, right? Why do we need bells for them? Okay, why not? Bell tolls for the two old men. The two old thieves. Back in the saddle again? Yeah, that's a good saying. Martial Brother Lin's evil resisting sword manual was stolen by those two old men. I killed those two people and brought it back. Those two people are likely good fighters from the devil sect, Ling Huchang explained, and reached inside his bosom. But that Buddhist robe was gone. He quickly asked, Where's that Buddhist robe? What's that? Madame Yue asked. There were words written on that Buddhist robe. It was most likely the Lin family's evil resisting sword manual. If that's Pingzhi, then he should be the one taking care of it, Madame Yue said. Yes, Master Wife, are you and Master well? Martial brothers and sisters are all well? Madame Yue used her sleeve to wipe her teary eyes before saying, Everyone's fine. How did I end up here? Did Master and Master Wife rescue me? Ling Huchang queried. When I arrived at Pingzhi's old house this morning, I saw you passed out on the ground, Madame Yue explained. Ling Huchang groaned. Lucky that Master Wife found me. Otherwise, if the devil sex people found me first, I'd have been dead. He knew that Master Wife came to Xiangyang Lane to look for her daughter when she didn't see her early in the morning. It was just that it was awkward to mention it right now. You said you killed 2 people from the devil sect. How did you know they're from the devil sect? Yue Bu-chun wondered. Ling Huchang answered, When Disciple was going south, I came across many of the devil sex's people on the road. I've also fought with them a few times already. These 2 people's martial arts were weird. They're definitely not from our orthodox schools. Secretly, he was feeling happy. I've returned Martial Brother Lin's evil resisting sword manual. Master Wife, and little Martial's sister won't suspect me anymore. Also, since I've killed those 2 devil sex evils, Master wouldn't blame me for colluding with the devil sect anymore. Who would have thought that Yue Bu-chun's complexion would turn pale on hearing Ling Huchang's reply? He snorted and scolded. You're still talking nonsense. Do you think I can be deceived that easily? Ling Huchang was alarmed and quickly said, Disciple doesn't dare to fool Master. Yue Bu-chun's voice quaked. Who's your master? I've already disowned you as my disciple. Ling Hucheng quickly got up from the bed and kneeled down on the ground. He kowtowed. Disciple has done many wrong things. I'm willing to receive punishments from Master, but my expulsion from the school, I request Master to take me back. Yue Buchun moved aside, not receiving his kowtow. He then coldly said, The daughter of Devil Sex's Chief Run already favors you, and you've also been cooperating with them for a long time already. Why do you still need me as your master? Ling Hucheng was confused. Daughter of Devil Sex's Chief Ren? Master, I don't know what you're saying. Although I've heard of that Run Wall Sing's daughter, I've never met her before. Madame Yue rebuked him lightly. Chong-er, even now, why are you still telling lies? She sighed and continued. That lady Run gathered those evil people of Jianghu at the top of 5 Tyrant Ridge to give you medications. That day, didn't we go? Ling Hucheng was greatly astonished. His voice was trembling as he said, That lady on the 5 Tyrant Ridge, she's Ying Ying. She's Chief Ren's daughter? Oh. So if you remember Ying Ying, that he met before. So she's the daughter of Ron Wo Xing. Okay, the daughter of the guy that he rescued from the prison. Yep, Madame Yue does miss him. See, I always liked her. Yeah, thanks, Six. Yep, he did stab the throat of the first guy. And the second guy was the guy chasing him. I missed the part where he killed the first guy. Get up before speaking, Madame Yue requested. Ling Hucheng slowly stood up. His heart was at a loss, and he kept on mumbling, She's Chief Ren's daughter? How can this be? Madame Yue was angry, and she wasn't pleased at all. Why are you still telling lies to Master and Master Wife? Yue Buchun indignantly said, Who's his... Yue Buchun indignantly said, Who's his master or master wife? He extended his hand and hit the table repeatedly. With each hit, a piece of the table broke away. Ling Hucheng was frightened. Disciple doesn't dare to lie to Master and Master Wife. Yue Buchun fiercely said, I have eyes, but I couldn't see, and had accepted such a shameless child as a disciple. I'm very ashamed to face the heroes of the realm. You want to dirty my name, do you? If you ever call us Master or Master Wife again, then I'll kill you right now. He was extremely angry, and his face was turning purple, readying his qi. Oh, his face turned purple. That's his martial arts technique, right? The violet twilight. Ling Hucheng answered, Yes. As he put his hand on the edge of the bed to support himself, his face was pale and his body was shaking violently. They did give me some treatments on that ridge, but they never told me that she was Chief Ren's daughter. Madame Yue said, You're bright and clever. You're also very alert. How could you not have figured it out? She's only a very young lady, but with only one word from her, she could control all those evil people. Every one of them struggled to be on that ridge, only to give some kind of treatment for you. Besides the daughter of the Devil Sex's Chief Run, who else has such a big reputation? I thought she was only an old granny at that time, Ling Hucheng explained. She was disguising herself? Madame Yue asked. She didn't. It's just that I've never seen her. I didn't see her face, Ling Hucheng said. Yue Buchun uttered a laugh, but there was no sign of laughter on his face. Madame Yue sighed. Chong-er, you've already grown up. Your character has also changed. You're not taking the words that I just said into your heart. Ling Hucheng said, Master, the words that you said, What he wanted to say was, the words that you said, I wouldn't dare to violate. Master and Master Wife had repeatedly told him not to make friends with people from the Devil's sect, but with the connection he had with Ying Ying, Xiang Wenxian and Ren Wuxing, how can they just merely be called friends? Madame Yue continued, that daughter of Chief Ren was so nice to you, so she gathered so many people to treat your illness. Because of that, you were able to live. So maybe this is excusable. Yue Buchun indignantly said, what do you mean, excusable? Are you allowed to stop at nothing just to live? He usually treated Madame Yue very courteously, as if she was an honored guest, but today he had repeatedly spoken to her in a fierce manner and had also cut her off in the middle of her sentence. It was obvious that he was in an uncontrollable rage. Madame Yue understood her husband's mood, so she didn't consult with him before continuing. But why were you together with one of the devil sect's elders, Xiang Wenxian, and killed many of our Orthodox schools' people? Both of your hands are stained with their blood. You quickly, get out of here. Ling Huchang's back was drenched with cold sweat as he remembered that day on Liang Pavilion. He was welcoming the enemies together with Xiang Wenxian, and many people from the Orthodox schools died under his hand. But at that time, the fight was very dangerous, so if he didn't kill them, he would have been the one to get killed. There was really nothing he could do differently at all, but these blood debts would be forever on his hands. So he did kill people from the Orthodox sect. Madame Yue said, below the Five-Tyrant Ridge, you joined hands with that devil sex's young lady Ren, again, to kill a few Shaolin and Kunlun schools' disciples. Chang'er, I've long regarded you as my own son, but these things that have happened so far, your master wife is powerless to protect you anymore. As she said this, 2 teardrops fell on her cheeks. Ling Huchang bleakly said, I've really done some unpardonable wrongs, but I'm responsible for what I did. I cannot let Huashan School's reputation be covered in dirt. I request you, too honorable, to open a court of law and invite every house and every school to come and witness my execution according to Huashan School's rules. Yue Buchun sighed. Master Ling Hu, if you were still my Huashan School's disciple today, then this might work. Your death would have protected Huashan School's reputation, as you would have still been my disciple. But I've already announced to the whole realm about your expulsion from the school. Hereafter, what do your actions have to do with my Huashan School? Also, what position do I have to put you in your place? Hey, the just and evil cannot coexist together. Next time, when you're doing evil things, if I bump into you at that time, then I would definitely kill you. I can't just let you do whatever you want. When he spoke until here, someone called out from the outside. Master wife. It was Lao De Noir. Yue Buchun asked, what is it? There are people outside paying a visit to master and master wife. He said he's Songshan School's Zhang Zhen. His 2 martial brothers are also here, Lao De Noir answered. These people from the Songshan School again. I wonder what they're here for. I bet they're here to convince him to merge with their school again. Yue Buchun said, 9 bent sword Zhang Zhen. He's also in Fujian. I'll come out right away. And he made his way outside. Madame Yue looked at Ling Huchang. Her eyes were brimming with tears, and it looked like she was asking him to wait here. She turned her head again, looking like she had something to say before going out of the room. Ling Huchang had long regarded Master Wife as his own mother. He felt extremely remorseful seeing her tender affection towards him. He considered, I can blame my unrestrained behavior for a lot of things that have happened. I didn't distinguish right and wrong, and good and evil clearly. Brother Xiang is evidently not a noble person. Why didn't I find out clearly before helping him to fight? If I die now, it's no big deal, but not only would it make my master and master wife lose face in front of Wu Lin's heroes, All the other martial brothers and martial sisters would also lose their faces because people would say that the Huashan school has produced such an unworthy disciple. He thought more, Ying Ying is Chief Ranz's daughter. No wonder old man and Zhu Qianchu were so respectful towards her. She thoughtlessly said a word, and all those Jianghu heroes were banished to the East China Seas' Huang Island and wouldn't be able to come back to the Central Plains ever again. I should have realized it earlier. In Wulin, besides a leader of the devil sect, who else has such power? But when she was with me, she was coy and bashful. She was even more so compared to little Marshall's sister. Who would have expected that she would be ahead of the devil sect? But Chief Run was imprisoned by Dongfang Bubai at the bottom of the West Lake. How did his daughter get so much power? His mind was like a tide, going up and down indeterminately. Suddenly he heard footsteps approaching, and a person entered the room quickly. It was the person he had been thinking of day and night. The person whom he had borne in his mind all the time. It was his little martial sister. Ling Wuchang called out, "Little martial sister, you..." He was at a loss for words. Yue Lingshan said, "Big martial brother, quickly, get out of here. Songshan School's people are looking for you." She was very anxious as she was telling him this, but when Ling Huchang saw her, all the matters that were in his mind were all forgotten. What Songshan School? He didn't even hear what she said. All sorts of emotions were bubbling inside of him as he was looking at her. Sweet, sour, bitter, hot, and all sorts of other tastes were rushing forth in his mind. Yue Lingshan saw him staring at her. Her face turned red as she said, "It's someone surnamed Zong. He brought 2 of his martial brothers here. He said that you killed some Songshan School's people, and he had chased you till here." Ling Huchang was dumbfounded and was at a loss. "I killed some people from the Songshan School? I didn't." Suddenly, the door to the room banged open, and Yue Buchun walked in. He was angry. Isn't he always angry? He was angry and said fiercely, "Ling Huchang, you've done very well. You've killed Songshan School's seniors, but you tried to deceive me by saying that they were the devil sex's villains." I killed the Songshan School's seniors? I didn't, Ling Huchang stammered. "White hair immortal, Bu Chun, bald eagle, Sha Tianjiang. Didn't you kill these 2 people?" Yue Buchun asked indignantly. Oh. So those 2 old men were from the Songshan school. They were the thieves. I shouldn't have told the bell for them. They're from the Songshan school. When Ling Huchang heard the nicknames of these 2 people, he recalled that bald old man who committed suicide. He recalled what that bald old man who committed suicide said before he died. How can bald eagle surrender? Then the other person must be the white-hair immortal Bu Chun. 1 white-haired old man and 1 bald old man. I killed those 2 people, but I didn't know they were from the Songshan school. Since they were using sabers, it's definitely not the Songshan school's martial arts. Born? Where was born? The word definition for the word born. The person whom he had born in his mind all the time. The person whom he had kept in his mind? Kept inside his mind? Carried. Born means carried. Aha! Ha ha ha! Carried. That's right. Past participle of bear. Carry the weight of, support, blah 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 blah. Okay. Minus the bells. How do I take away the bells? Can I take away the bells? How do I play it backwards? Play the bell sound backwards. So, you killed these two people? Man, he has such bad luck. Keeps killing the wrong keeps killing the people from his alliance. Yuebuchun looked stern as he asked this question again. Yes, Ling Hucheng answered. Dad, those white-haired old man and that bald old man, Yue Lingshan pleaded. Oh yeah, they saw him. They saw the two guys. Oh, Yue Lingshan can plead his case, right? Yue Buchun cut her off. Get out! Who asked you to come in? Do I want you to interfere while I'm talking here? Yue Lingshan could only drop her head and slowly walked out of the room. Well, there goes that plan. They have a witness. Ling Hucheng felt miserable and happy at the same time. Although Marshall's sister and Marshall brother Lin are on good terms, she still considers me as a friend. She bravely rebuked her father, and before she alerted me to quickly run away to avoid disaster. Yue Buchun laughed coldly. Do you know all the martial arts of the 5 mountain sword schools? These two people, Bu and Sha, came from Songshan School. Since you absolutely have no rules or regulations whatsoever, I don't know what kind of despicable method you used to kill them, but Songshan School tracked the traces of blood all the way back to Lin Pingzhi's old house at Xiangyang Lane. They then investigated further and traced the clues to here. Now, Marshal Brother Zhang from Songshan School is outside as my guest. Do you have anything else to say? Madame Yue walked into the room and said, They never saw Chang'er killing these two people. They were only relying on the trail of blood. How can they be so sure that it was done by someone inside? How can they be sure that it was done by someone inside the escort house? Why don't we just tell them that we don't know anything? Yue Buchun indignantly retorted, Marshal's sister, even until now, you still want to protect this stop-at-no-evil, good-for-nothing kid? I'm the leader of the Huashan school. How can I tell lies just because of this animal? How can we do that? We mustn't bring ruin and shame upon ourselves. For the past several years, Ling Hucheng had always known that master and master wife went from martial brother and sister to husband and wife. If he could be like that for one day with his little martial sister, then he'll be satisfied and would have no other wish in his life. But when he saw master talking so fiercely to master wife, he suddenly thought, if little Marshall's sister were my wife, I'll do whatever she wants me to do. I'll do it. I'll do it if it was a good thing. I'll still do it if it was a bad thing. I'd never brush away her idea in the slightest bit. Even if she wanted me to do 10 really evil things, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Yue Buchun suddenly saw Ling Hucheng's expression becoming tender and soft with a hint of a smile. Ling Hucheng's eyes shone passionately as he thought of that girl standing outside the room. Yue Buchun lashed out, Little animal, what kind of evil plan are you cooking up now? Yue Buchun's loud shout woke Ling Hucheng up abruptly from his flights of fancy. When he looked up, he saw that his master's face had turned purple, and he had his hand raised, ready to strike his head. Suddenly, the feeling of joy washed over him as he felt ready to give up all the bitter things that had happened to him. Today, under his master's hand, he would die happily and be freed. His heart yearned for death, especially with little Marshall's sister beside him to see him get killed by her own father. Gazing at Yue Lingshan, he smiled slightly and waited for his master's palm to strike down. He heard the wind whistle as Yue Buchun's palm descend. But suddenly, Madame Yue cried out, No, you can't! As her finger stabbed towards her husband's Yu Zhen acupoint at the back of his head. The two of them had been practicing their martial arts together since they were small, and they were both very familiar with each other's skills. His acupoint that Madame Yue was attacking was a fatal point, so Yue Buchun automatically turned around to block the strike, while Madame Yue quickly put herself in front of Ling Huchong. Yue Buchun's face turned pale and indignantly asked, What are you doing? Chong quickly, go! Madame Yue hurriedly urged. Ling Huchong shook his head. I'm not going. If Master wants to kill me, then he can kill me. I deserve this punishment for my sins. Madame Yue stamped her foot and insisted further. Now that I'm here, he can't kill you. Quickly, go! Go really far and never come back. Yue Buchun snorted. Huh, if he goes, then what do we tell those 3 people from Songshan School waiting outside? Ling Huchong thought, so Master is worried that he might not be able to deal with Zhong Zhen and his brothers. I should go and meet them in his place. Deciding this, he declared, all right, I'll go meet them, and went out of the room in big strides. Madame Yue pleaded after him, you cannot go. They'll kill you. But Ling Huchong kept on walking very fast, and in no time at all, he arrived at the main hall. Sure enough, he saw nine-bent sword Zhong Zhen, divine whip Deng Ba Gong, and bright-haired lion Gao Ke Xin sitting on the guest seats. Ling Huchong went and took a seat opposite to them. He coldly questioned, You 3, what are you doing here? At this moment, wearing the clothes of a servant and having no fake beards attached to his face, Ling Huchong looked completely different from the general they had met that night. When Zhong Zhen and his brothers saw this wretched-looking and blood-stained young servant being rude to them as soon as he entered the room, they all became angry. Gao Ku Xin shouted, What kind of thing are you? Ling Huchong laughed, You 3 people, what kind of north-south are you? That's probably some translation thing. Gao Ku Xin said Dong Su, which literally means east-west, but these 2 words together means object. Gotcha. Gao Ku Xin was startled and wondered, how can it be called north-south? But he decided that it was just badly spoken. Indignantly, he demanded, Go and get Mr. Yue out here. Do you think you are good enough to talk to us? In the meantime, Yue Buchun, Madame Yue, Yue Lingshan, and the multitudes of Huashan School's disciples had arrived by the screen door outside the hall. They all heard how Ling Huchong answered Gao Ku Xin's question. When Yue Lingshan heard Ling Huchong asking you 3 people, what kind of north-south are you, she thought it was very funny, even though her big martial brother was being rude. But she knew that because big martial brother had killed people from the Songshan School, these 3 masters and big martial brother would definitely have to fight later, and the fight would unavoidably be fierce. Father and mother would be unable to help big martial brother, and she didn't know what to do herself. Her heart was so filled with anxiety that she didn't laugh at the joke. Hey, what's up, Amy? Thanks for joining. Oh, thanks, Pebbles. Thanks for the super chat. I really appreciate it. Ling Huchong taunted. Who's Mr. Yue? You mean the Huashan School's leader. I came here looking for him. Songshan School has 2 unworthy disciples. One is called white-haired brother Bu Chen, and the other one is bald owl Sha Tianjiang. I killed both of them already. But I heard the Songshan School has 3 more chaps hiding in the Fortune Prestige escort house. I came to ask Mr. Yue to hand over these people to me, but he didn't consent. This irritates me, really irritates me. He continued shouting loudly, Mr. Yue, there are 3 idiots here from the Songshan School. There's one called Soft Sword Zhong Zhen, another one called Little Ghost Dun Ba Gong, and the other one called Scabies Skin Cat, Gao Ke Xin. Please, quickly bring them out here. I have debts to collect from them. You want to protect them? That won't do. You 5 mountain sword schools have the same root but different branches. How can I settle this debt? When Yue Buchun and the rest of the people heard his taunts, they weren't shocked at all. They all knew that he was saying all this to let everyone know that the Huashan School had nothing to do with him. These 3 people from the Songshan School had been famous for a long time already, especially the nine-bent sword, Zhongzhen. It was obvious to the people outside that Ling Huchong knew the backgrounds of the Songshan School's people already. It was no small matter when Ling Huchong defeated Feng Buping from the sword sect and blinded the eyes of 15 swordsmen, but at the moment he was heavily injured and he might not even be able to stand up. They were perplexed as to why he was so daring as to rashly challenge 3 master hands. Indignantly, like indignantly means stubbornly. Stubbornly. He's indignant. In a manner indicating anger or annoyance at something perceived as unfair. Define scabies? Ah, fuck. Or is scabies? Scabies skin. What the hell is scabies? Scabies. Scabies skin cat. Is that like a skin condition? Like some kind of skin condition. Like the skin flakes off or something. I don't know. I'm gonna say it's some kind of skin condition. Scabies. 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 Oh, hey! That's right. A contagious skin disease marked by itching and small raised red spots. That was a pretty good guess, if I do say so myself. That's not stubborn? There it is. What? What do you mean? Indignant? I think that's stubborn, no? Scabies are skin lice. Oh, really? Let's look at scabies. Do we want to look at pictures? I'm not sure we want to look at it. Alright. Just 1 second. Ah! Okay, there you go. That's scabies. Wait. And you guys are not accepting indignant. Is that what I'm hearing? Like, I think this counts as stubborn, no? Like when you're stubborn, you're like, I don't know. Really? You're not giving that to me? That's not cool. I think that counts. It's more being annoyed. Alright, you guys are way too hard. You guys are like too hard. What a tough crowd. Alright, fine. Fine, I'll accept. I'll take the L. I'll accept that. That's one song at the end I have to do. Wait, where was I? Okay. Gao Kuxin was so angry that he jumped up and drew the sword out of his scabbard. As he was about to stab his sword towards Ling Huchong, Zhang Zhen held up his hand to stop him. He then asked Ling Huchong, "What's your honor's name?" Ling Huchong laughed. Haha, I recognize you, but you don't recognize me. Your Songshan school wants to combine the 5 mountain sword schools into one by taking over the other 4 schools. You 3 north-south came to Fujian to steal the Lin family's evil-resisting sword manual and to kill important people from the Huashan and Hangshan school. All of these plots of yours, I already know about them. Haha, very funny, very funny. When Yue Buchun and Madame Yue saw what was happening, they both thought, why is he unnecessarily saying all these nonsensical talk? Zhang Zhen was surprised. Which school is your honor from? Ling Huchong answered, Big Temple didn't want to accept me. Small Temple also didn't want to accept me. I'm a masterless, lonely soul, wandering alone on wild mountains and plains. I won't bother with your Songshan School's business. You don't need to worry. His laughter sounded miserable. Zhang Zhen said, Your honor is not from the Huashan School, so we cannot disturb Mr. Yue anymore. Why don't we go outside to talk? These words were said softly, but his eyes were fierce and were full of murderous intent. At this point, Zhang Zhen had already decided to kill Ling Huchong, but he was slightly afraid of Yue Buchun, so he didn't dare to draw his sword to kill him inside the Fortune Prestige escort house. Hence, he wanted to lead Ling Huchong out of the escort house first, before making his move. This was just what Ling Huchong wanted. Before he went out, he shouted, Mr. Yue, from now on you must protect yourself better. Devil Sex's chief Run Wo-Xing has reappeared. This person can absorb other people's internal energy by using his art of essence absorbing. He said that he wanted to give some trouble to the Huashan school. There's also the matter of the Songshan school wanting to swallow up the Huashan school. You're an honorable man, while other people are heartless and cruel, so you must protect yourself. He came to Fuzhou because he wanted to tell his master these words. After he finished speaking, he took large steps and went out of the house. Zhang Zhen and his martial brothers followed him out. Just as Ling Huchong was stepping out of the escort house, he saw a group of nuns and women standing outside the main door. They were the female disciples from the Hangshan school. Yihu and Zhang E were walking in front of the group holding a visit box. So translators note, a visit box is a wooden box containing the visitor's calling card, which is given to the host's servants at the gate to be presented to the host. It seemed that they had just arrived to pay a visit to Yue Buchun and Madame Yue. Ling Huchong was startled as he hastily turned his head around, not wanting to meet them, but Yihu and the other disciples had already seen him. But it was good that Yilin was right at the back of the group and didn't manage to see his appearance. Remember, he was disguised at the time, right? He had a beard and stuff. He was disguised as some kind of general. But now he took off his disguise, so they didn't recognize him. But if Yilin saw him, she would totally recognize him. As soon as Zhang Zhen and his 2 martial brothers stepped out of the door, Yihu and Zhang E recognized them. Startled, they stopped where they were. Ling Huchong thought, Hangshan School's disciples already know that my master is here, so they came to visit. There is my master and master wife to tend to them here. There is my master and master wife to tend to them here, so they won't suffer a loss. He didn't want to meet Yilin, so he slipped away to the side, wanting to get away. Simultaneously, Zhang Zhen, Deng Bagong, and Gao Kuxin drew their swords out and jumped in front of him and shouted, You want to run away? Ling Huchong laughed. I don't have any weapons. How do I fight? At this time, Yue Buchun, Madame Yue, and the rest of the Huashan School's disciples had arrived at the door, wanting to see how Ling Huchong would cope with Zhang Zhen and his 2 martial brothers. Yue Lingshan pulled her sword out of the scabbard and shouted, Big! Intending to toss the sword to him. But Yue Buchun extended his left hand and used his 2 fingers to hit the top of her sword, shaking it. Yue Lingshan pleaded, Dad! But Yue Buchun just shook his head. Oh, that's cold, Yue Buchun. That is cold. Ling Hucheng had turned around and saw all this, and he was reassured. Little Marshall's sister still cares for me, like in the old days. Suddenly, a few people shouted in surprise. Ling Hucheng knew that someone must have started a sneak attack. There wasn't enough time to turn his head around, so he immediately jumped forward. His internal energy was very deep, so his jump was very high and fast, which enabled him to escape from that attack. But he still heard the sound of the wind at the back of his head, as a sword was slashed down close to the back of his body. Oh, come on, that was a sneak attack. Not cool. Not cool, he wasn't even ready. He doesn't even have a weapon. If he had jumped a fraction of a second later or not, used enough energy, he would have been half a foot closer and his body would have been split in two. He had luckily escaped from a very dangerous situation. Ling Hucheng immediately turned his head around as soon as he landed. He heard someone yelling and saw moving white lights. It was the Hongshan School's female disciples joining the fight. They had divided into 3 groups of 7 people each. Each of the group separately surrounded one person. This instance of pulling out the swords, moving, surrounding, fighting, and movement of the swords were done extremely fast, especially when aided with their qinggong. Their movements were also beautiful. It was obvious that they had practiced this type of fighting formation. Each of their swords was pointed at the enemy's head, throat, chest, stomach, waist, back, and side. These 7 places on their bodies were threatened simultaneously. Once the formation was completed, the 7 disciples all stopped moving. It was Zhang Zhen who sneakily attacked Ling Hucheng just then. After hearing Ling Hucheng's harmful speech towards the Songshan school, he tried to take advantage of his unpreparedness and tried to kill him. He wanted to get rid of a potential informant in order to prevent him from saying more, which might increase Yue Buchun's suspicions. Even though he executed an extremely deadly move, his opponent still managed to escape, and now the Hongshan School's disciples had finished their formation. Although his martial arts was high, he couldn't move at all. If he even moved a muscle, then a sword would pierce into his body. Alright, so now the Hongshan School's disciples had trapped Zhang Zhen. Yue Buchun and Madame Yue didn't know that the Hongshan School and Zhang Zhen's party had met before in Nianbapu town. They were greatly surprised when both parties started to fight each other. The fighting formation of the Hongshan School's disciples looked wonderful once it was completed. 21 people were divided into 3 groups, and their 21 swords trembled slightly as cold lights flickered around the area. Besides their sleeves floating in the air, everything else was totally still, but there were unbounded, murderous opportunities in their formation. When Ling Hucheng turned around to protect himself, he saw how Hongshan School started and completed their fighting formations with 7 swords attacking and surrounding each enemy. He did not find any flaw at all in the formation, as if it had been executed with no moves to make as if it had been executed with no moves to break a move sword intention from the Dugu 9 swords. He cheered out loud, "Wonderful! What a splendid sword formation!" Seeing that he had been completely restrained, Zhang Zhen suddenly laughed, dropped his sword, and offered, "Everyone is on the same side. What kind of joke are we playing here? I admit defeat, okay?" Yihe was leading the group surrounding him. When he saw that the enemy admitted defeat and dropped his sword, she withdrew her sword. The remaining 6 people also withdrew their swords. To their surprise, Zhang Zhang used his left foot to kick his longsword up and hit its handle with his hand to shoot the sword forward. As the sword pierced Yihe's right arm, she uttered an "ah" and dropped her sword. No, that's it. That's it. Yay! I was done with chapter 43. Alright, did you guys like that? That was a cool chapter. Alright, things are happening now. Like, events are happening.
So we learned that the Songshan school is like executing their plan, right? They want to absorb all the other schools in the alliance, and they're also not good people, apparently. Yeah. So the two old men they tried to steal the evil resisting sword manual. Yeah. And let's remember, we still. So when Ling Hucheng woke up, he didn't have that Buddhist robe on him, right? With the manual. So he found the manual, but apparently we don't know where it is now. It's been 2 hours? Wow. That it has. That it has. This was a relatively long chapter, right? Yeah. A good sized chapter. Yeah. So they found the sword art, and then they we don't know where it is now. Okay. All right, I owe you guys a song. I guess I do. Name a song. Let me go pee first. Name a song. If I don't know any of the songs that you name, then I'll pick one. All right, I'll be right back.